Full press coverage Commanders podcast. Apparently, it's Carson Wentz season. Let's get it on. Good evening, everyone. It's George Carmi from the Full Press Coverage Podcast. I'm here with my man Joe Castro from Philly, the podcast. How you doing today, bud?
Living the dream, man. I appreciate you having me on, George. You already know. Anytime you call, man, I got you, brother.
You do, man. I really do appreciate that. So, me and Joe have some history. Been, going into this pod for a couple of years now. He has an excellent podcast on, on his network over there, Philly, the podcast. Joe, how many followers do you have? Like our viewers do you have
right
on YouTube?
Right now we're at like 3,100, something like that. Hitting almost close to 4K. So if you're a Washington fan, definitely come on over, get some ammo for those weeks. You know what I'm saying? Definitely hit that subscribe, man.
100%, man. 100%. Joe always keeps it real. That's why, we kind of hit it off, similar personalities, always keeps it honest with the fan base. And I do appreciate that. So Joe, I was telling you before recording, I'm sitting there in a meeting around 2:00, just kind of zoning out, professional development going on. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm seeing text messages. I'm sorry, George, man. What apologizing to me that we got Carson Wentz. So honestly, I saw him over at Philadelphia. I have a perception of him, but I want to keep, you keep it real. You've seen him, he was your savior at one point. He was your, second round overall pick and the second selection overall. So just break it down. So what is Washington getting with Carson Wentz?
We did talk prior to us going live, right? I did tell you I was going to be honest. I was going to try and keep my bias away. Look, you're getting a guy that was the second overall pick, and it wasn't for no reason, right? The talent, I think he still does have that talent. Obviously, the injury in 2016, may have taken back a little bit of what Carson Wentz was great at when he was, young and with the Eagles. Maybe it did have a little bit of an effect on him. But as far as on the field goes, you're getting a guy that can make every NFL throw, can get out of situations as far as moving around in the pocket, as far as, understanding when to use his feet. He's gotten better at protecting himself. Obviously, last year he went through the whole year. The year prior to that, he went through the full year. Obviously getting hurt against Seattle, which was kind of a freak play. I don't really put that on him.
Yeah.
I will say negatively, though, you are also getting, for lack of better terms, a head case. You're getting someone who didn't fit in Philly. Whether or not, there's still a whole sect of fans of Philadelphia that say it wasn't his fault, and there's still a whole section of people that will die on that hill. I'm not one of them, but either way, he did obviously make he found his way outside of Philadelphia, right? Then he goes to a situation in the Indianapolis Colts where not only it's a way better team, way better built team than we were at the moment. You also had a head coach that believed in him, a head coach that put his, I don't want to say job on the line, but put his neck out there to go ahead and grab Carson Wentz. And that same coach is now willing to move on from him in a bad quarterback market. So, you are getting a talented player. And if that's all you get, then you made out very well in this trade. But unfortunately, there's been so much more surrounding Carson Wentz than what happens on the field. So, you're getting two different players. You're just hoping the better one is what you get full time, right?
100%, man. So let's kind of talk about this. Let's deep dive a little bit. So let's focus on the field. So you said he can make all the throws. I actually watched NFL.com just put out a quick video, 10 highlight plays from last year. He seems to have a big arm. Is that true? Do you feel that's true? Do you think he processes well? What are some of his strengths as a quarterback?
He definitely has a great arm. And he can fit it in there with the best of them, right? Processing wise, he doesn't take the play that, it's similar to what I could say about, probably Jalen Hurts, and you can probably say about Taylor Heineke even, because I think he was kind of a slinger at times, but he doesn't take the easy plays, right? He's not going to have, if you see more than 2 checkdowns in a row, go out there and make sure Carson's still your quarterback. I don't think he's.
That's a common theme I'm catching today, Joe. I'm hearing that, but keep going. I want to talk.
It's very true. He's just not gonna. He's gonna always want to get that big play because he knows he has that big arm. whereas somebody else that may not have that strength would read the field more. I don't want to say that he can't read the field because I feel like he can. I think that it's just that that hero ball mentality, right? He wants to always make the big play. He doesn't want to necessarily take the 5-6 yards and live, or even just take the sack. There were times, and we could talk about his fumbles. There was times that we seen him maybe roll out when it was just time to just throw the ball away, or just take what the defense is giving you. So as far as a guy that, ability wise, I think that there's nothing that he realistically lacks. I don't think that as far as playing the quarterback in a backyard situation, he's probably one of the better quarterbacks. But when it comes to everything, you got to be wary about him wanting to make the big plays. You have Terry McLaurin, and I will say this: Terry McLaurin is a huge upgrade than any wide receiver that he's honestly had.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So
Fair.
it might work into his favor. It might, Terry McLaurin is a guy that we've talked about this, right? It always seems like he's slowing down for the deep ball. That won't be a problem with Carson Wentz. That will not be an issue. And I'm sitting here talking all this nice stuff. He's still a head case, guys. So, but no, I think you're getting a good player. There's worries. There's worries. I think in any quarterback that you would have gotten in this, free agency, obviously the draft. So outside of Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, who was really a sure thing, I saw the post that you made a little while ago, and I gave you my top, how I would rank those certain quarterbacks. Yeah, but I stick hold to it. I think that outside of Winston, and Winston most likely is going back, I think that he was your safest bet. Jimmy Garoppolo's getting old. There's really no future in that. It's more of if you think you can kind of get over that hump with him, he makes sense. But for you guys, I feel like it was, if Carson Wentz is the best Carson Wentz, you guys got yourself a franchise guy for 2/3, right? If he's not, you move on. And 2/3 sucks, but it isn't the end of the world. So.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think basically, obviously my heart was set on Russell Wilson. I really wanted Russell Wilson this year. I know it was a pipe dream, but I was like, you know what? Like, it sounded like he was kind of a Ron Rivera type of guy where they just kind of put everything into him, a leader. I was really, keen on that. We whiffed on it. It's, we obviously let that down. I think Carson Wentz was kind of like a media save at the same time. I do think, we had to recover. Like, we put out 3 first-round picks. We got rebuffed by the Seahawks. And, they were saying that maybe they didn't want to trade within the conference, which makes perfect sense. You don't want to trade within the NFC. But it did kind of sting. And it does, like, we tried for Matt Stafford last year, didn't work. Amari Cooper 2 years ago, it didn't work. Now Russell Wilson didn't work. It's like, what's going on here in Washington? Why don't people love us? It kind of felt that way, So finally getting Carson Wentz, I think it's kind of lackluster where it's like, we wanted more, but at the same time, it is a significant improvement over Heineke, I believe. So we'll kind of see how that all shakes out. And I kind of agree with you. I think if we're being like, objective, I think if you look at that second tier where it's like Winston and Wentz and Garoppolo and Trubisky and people like that, I think Wentz probably has the most physical upside out of all those guys, right? I think he probably is. Like Winston, he actually produced in the league 30 touchdowns, but I don't know about his leadership. Garoppolo's a great leader, but I don't know about his ability to kind of take it to that next level. And then, Trubisky's a wild card, man. I think he's getting a lot of hype. And how do you feel about Trubisky? Just curious.
I hate Trubisky, if I'm being 100%.
There you go. Keep it real, man. I love it. Yeah.
The only, I don't want to say the only, coming out of college, I said that he was he was hugely overrated. I thought he was vastly overrated. One of my really, really good friends from up north is a Bears fan. So that kind of, brewed the hate a little bit more. But I think that he showed you what he is. I think that Mitch Trubisky is just not a good quarterback. He never really was. He had one really good year in college, and that got him paid, and God bless him. But I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think that he has even the upside of a Jameis. I mean, Jameis Winston, like you said, he produced. He's a gunslinger, but so is Brett Favre, right? And we praise Brett Favre like he was the greatest of all time, and he had probably more interceptions than touchdowns. So I like what you're getting out of Winston. I like what you can get out of Wentz, if everything goes right. If everything goes right, Mitchell Trubisky's still not a good quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky was on a very good Bears team and made them very bad, right? Like you even look at I put him below Blake Bortles, and Blake Bortles is no longer.
Wow.
Blake Bortles took a very good team. I don't want to say he took him, but he was able to kind of ride in the same car as a very good Jaguars team. And I feel like Mitchell Trubisky with the Bears team, and I don't know why I have this much, passion towards Mitchell Trubisky, but Mitchell Trubisky took the car and just kept on hitting the brakes as much as he could. He's the
Yeah.
one that realistically held that team back. And you could say Blake Bortles lost it for them in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Okay, that's fine, but it was in the playoffs. Mitch Trubisky couldn't even get him there, really. So you had an all-world defense, and he literally did everything in his power to make sure that team wasn't great. Jake, what's his name? The Cody Parkey had his
Yeah.
part in it as well. Don't get me wrong, the double doink was beautiful,
Yeah.
but in that game he scored 14 points against not a great Eagles defense. So
Yeah.
I
So you guys have a little
no-
history there. I can see that. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I have no love for Mitchell Trubisky. I don't think he should be in the league. If I'm being real.
Oh,
That's just how
okay,
I feel.
damn. Okay, yeah. Because I think the Washington contingent was starting to convince themselves about Mitchell Trubisky. Like, hey, he could do
I
it.
wish
He
all of
got
that.
rehab with Brian Dabble and Buffalo and all that kind of stuff. So I never really bought into it. I wasn't really too big on Trubisky.
I
Wentz,
wish I would have got him.
yeah, I mean, I was going to ask. So before we get into the fine details, as an Eagles fan, how do you feel us having Carson Wentz? Does that strike any fear into you? Or is you're like, whatever? Like, do you think he has upside? Like, what's going on?
As an Eagles fan, I'm ecstatic that you have Carson Wentz because
Okay.
you realistically, as an Eagles fan, I hate that, man. I mean, you look at Ben Simmons, you look at how Philadelphia 76ers are true. That's the same fan base, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say we hold a grudge, but when we can see you, we're going to let you know that we see you. So
Oh, we're gonna boo the hell out of him. Okay, I
yeah,
get it.
so
Okay, makes sense.
in that aspect,
That'd be
I love
fun.
it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, 2 times a year. It's
Mhm.
going to be a lot, and me and you are going to probably be going back and forth a lot.
100%.
So I'm looking forward to it as a football fan, right? And taking my Eagles hat off for a second.
Yeah.
It does kind of worry me because I mean, I will say that the Indianapolis Colts worried me in a sense that I thought that they were a very well built team, and I felt that everything was in his favor to succeed there. I don't feel like it's as worrisome with the Washington football team just because I don't think that everything. Again, I do think that you have a better
keep it real.
wide
It's fine. Go ahead.
receiver.
Yeah.
I think your offensive line is just as good. I think your offensive line is pretty damn good.
That's pretty good.
I
Actually,
could be
offensive line's
wrong
pretty
about
solid.
that,
Yeah.
but you have a very good defense. So there is pieces there, but like for him to fail so hard in Indianapolis, it kind of makes me kind of just feel like it's him. But if it's not him, I could see, I said this earlier in my live too, like maybe he needed this, kick in the tail twice and then to come back to Philly and to really get, reamed. Maybe that's what he needs to kind of just say, okay, let me get out of my feelings and go out there and just play ball. And if he does that, you got a great quarterback. And I can't deny that. You know what I'm saying? But I will never deny. If you could tell me I could take Carson Wentz's talent and put it in Jalen Hurts' mindset, I would do that 9 out of 10 times.
So let's talk about that real quick. So local radio, I was driving home from work and basically Dave Zangrana from NBC Sports Washington, Philadelphia. I'm sure you know about him. He basically was talking about the pros and cons of Carson Wentz. What he said about Wentz was that he can make every single throw on the field, but at the same time, he just has like minds, head scratching, what the hell happened kind of turnovers. He talked about that. He did talk about the fact that what you talked about before, basically he doesn't know when to give up on a play. Like the coaches would be like, stop, you need to throw the ball out of, take the sack or throw the ball out of bounds. And he tries to take it that step further. And then finally, he did talk about that Wentz really struggled with hard coaching. He basically when someone would be talked down to him or try to give him some constructive criticism, Wentz wouldn't really receive that well. Is that kind of what you think or what you've been hearing as well?
Yeah, I can't say that that's probably. I don't know. It's
fine. If you don't know, it's all good too.
No. Realistically, it's tough to say because there were so many things that happened in Philadelphia. Like, do I think that Doug Peterson got on him a little bit? Possibly, maybe it was Frank Reich. They didn't work out again, so I don't know. I don't feel like we were a tough coaching team. Like I never felt Doug Peterson was that guy to get in your face. He felt like the opposite, to be honest. And I can't speak to what Frank Reich's, philosophy is as far as that in practice, but as far as we were giving out ice cream after. I really.
I'm gonna say Peterson seems kind of like a player's coach, from what I get, right?
Exactly. So if that was the case, that's scary. That means you just can't.
He's getting you ice cream, you're getting pissed off. Like, what's going on over there? Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it was the wrong
I can
ice
see that.
cream. Maybe it was Ben and Jerry's he likes. But
it wasn't feeling that for some reason. Okay.
I don't want to say that I don't think that's a negative for him. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he does think he's better than the GOAT
Mm-hmm.
guys that are coaching him. I will say that. But we put
Okay.
some really good players. You know, we had the Matt. I want to say his name's Matt. What was his name? Oh boy, was it Matt Castle? It wasn't Matt Castle.
Matt
I can't
Castle, yeah,
remember his
backup,
name.
yeah, it was on the backup for you
Was
guys,
it
right?
Matt Castle that we had as the
Yeah,
backup?
from
Okay,
USC.
so
Yep.
look at that.
Yeah,
You know more than me. But either
that's all good.
you know, we had Matt Castle come in here, paid him an exorbitant amount of money to be our backup to
Mm-hmm.
teach Wentz. We had a lot, you know, Press Taylor. We had Frank Reich, obviously. We had Doug Peterson, all guys that were quarterback whisperers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't work out there. I don't know how much, and this is what I've always said, even when he got, you know, traded. And I say this with Jalen too. How much is enough? Like, how much do you have to put around a person to
Mm-hmm.
see them be the best them? You know, so I don't think that Jalen. I mean, I don't think that Carson Wentz necessarily like had it out with Doug, but I could
Mm-hmm.
be wrong. You know, it's so weird how it happened because I felt like everything was cool. I felt like, you know, everything was cool just a week ago. We were, you know, having a good time, and you got benched a couple times throughout your career. So maybe it was just Jalen coming in and he got nervous about that. I really don't know, and that's what's
That's
to
a
me the
great point.
scariest.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
very
that to me
scary.
that's the scariest.
So let's talk about that because we're gonna segue into the head case of whether the mental capacity of him, and also like I think deep down in Washington's like in our fan base heart, we still want to get a quarterback. I think like sitting at 11, we'll see. We still haven't like from what I gather, still news is kind of breaking constantly. From what I gather, Wentz has 3 more years on the contract. 1 more year is like fully guaranteed $28 million, which is a lot of money, which hurts a little bit this year. But I think you can cut it this year and move on without any consequence, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So we could potentially, get a quarterback at number 11. Maybe Malik Willis falls to 11, or maybe Kenny Pickett falls around there, or we can maybe use Wentz as a placeholder till next year. But you guys are talking about. I mean, we've been hearing that like he can get emotional, like he wasn't feeling good with Hurts in the locker room. We heard about that. We just heard that across the room. He just had some issues with other players. Like, what was going on with that? Like, what do you know?
Well, I know that recently it was, I don't want to say leaked, but recently, Philly gets bored with their news, so they have to leak random stuff that they didn't want to tell us. But apparently Carson Wentz, when prior to the championship game, I want to say it was Jimmy Kempski that released this on the Inquirer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had Jimmy Kempski on the show, so shout out to Jimmy. Either way, apparently prior to the Super Bowl, him being Carson Wentz and other injured players were speaking, and Carson Wentz was very upset with the success of the Philadelphia Eagles after his injury, obviously making it to the Super Bowl. I don't know how true that is, how realistic that is. Jimmy's usually a pretty good guy with his reporting. But that is something that came out. And, it didn't surprise any Philly fans. I think, again, I'm going to keep using the words. It's kind of scary that, that can get reported, and we're kind of like, that makes sense, and there was arguments between him and another injured player for him saying that. It just didn't seem like if it wasn't surrounded around him, it wasn't a win, right? We can win 12, 13 games, but if he only won 6, then he only won 6. It wasn't a team, thing. So it makes me worried because that's not going to change. I really don't see that changing anytime soon. But it is what it is. I mean, it could all be overblown. I really don't know Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz hasn't came out and said, this is what it was. This is how we're feeling. His camp has stayed very quiet, even throughout everything. Like, it's a really odd situation. So when you're the common denominator of everything going wrong around you,
smoke this fire, man. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't even hate the guy anymore. It's just one of those, I can't wait to play you 2 times a year because you played the heck out of our team. We still got the brunt end of all this, right? We were the ones that had to take on like $30 million in dead cap space. And Indy took on a good amount of dead cap space as well, which tells you even more. But we were still a little bit upset about how he handled things,
So he's not received well in Philadelphia? People don't like him over there?
There's 2 sections. Like, there are 2 sects that one side of it is kind of like, it wasn't his fault, it's Howie's fault, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. And then there's the guys that are kind of like me that are just like, screw the guy, for lack of better terms. What he did to me, I would. I mean, if a quarterback did that to you guys, or if any player did that to, like, look at Albert Hainsworth, right?
So,
When he
so
got
real
that.
quick. So, what I was going to try to get at, I'll let you finish it off.
Oh no, go ahead.
He's giving me Kirk Cousins vibes right now. Is that fair to say? Like, basically, like, remember how Kirk Cousins was like, "Oh, I love Washington," but at the same time, he knew he wasn't going to sign that long term deal. He'd always kind of throw people under the buses, and people were like, "You know what? Like, Kirk's kind of an odd guy. Like, he's not a bad person, but it's like people aren't meshing with him. They're not inviting him out and stuff like that." It just seemed like Kirk wasn't one of the guys. Is that kind of similar to what Wentz was like?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect comparison. To be honest, he just he wasn't, even though he was a hunter. On paper, it seemed like he would fit in with this group of guys that we have, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
some of our biggest guys are avid hunters.
Mm-hmm.
They're very religious, and he just
Mm-hmm.
checked all those boxes. So it kind of seemed like he was going to fit in perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the veterans. And it was the exact opposite. It seemed like nobody wanted him around, kind of like what you said. Nobody's inviting you to come hang out. And once he was ready to leave, once it came out that he really didn't want to go, I don't think that the team cared much. I think that the team was just like, all right, whatever, bye. Like, I think that the actual players were just fed up with it. So he just handled it totally wrong.
So ultimately, let's put like the whole personality to the side, because I heard like Jalen Hurts has like intangibles and an innate leader, and it's like I heard Jalen Hurts and Nick Foles. I heard both of them like constantly revered and like loved in Philadelphia, especially in the locker room. I guess athletically and what they provide as an offensive weapon, Hurts or Wentz, would you still take Hurts? No question asked. What do you think?
Right now, I would take Hurts over Wentz. But
Okay,
if I had to go back, I
like
think
who's a
this is
better
a better way
passer?
of
Wentz is
putting it.
probably a better passer,
Wentz,
but Hurts
yeah,
is a
definitely
better.
Wentz.
Okay,
Better
okay.
runner. I mean, but even so, Wentz is serviceable enough in the running game
He seems pretty
that he
athletic,
can.
right? He's huge,
I
six
mean, you
five.
guys should
Yeah.
know he
Yeah,
was
he always
he was cooking
Ryan
you
Kerr. He
guys
always
up for
missed
a
Ryan
while.
Kerrigan and run for like 15 yards every single time. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was cooking you guys for a while. It's
All the
crazy. Ryan
time.
Kerrigan
Yeah,
comes to
Houdini.
Philly. Wentz goes to Washington.
Yeah, it's always happens. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, talent wise, I would always say that Carson Wentz is better. And if we went back to that 2017 draft or 2018 draft, I can't remember exactly which one it is now. If we go back to that draft where we draft Jalen Hurts and you put us back on the clock, I don't want to pick Jalen Hurts at that spot. I still believed in Carson Wentz, and I still do believe in his talent. It's
Hmm.
the mentality, and it's the everything else. It's everything else outside of the football field. And unfortunately, especially in today's day and age, that counts. That matters. You know what
It
I'm
does.
saying?
It does. Leadership.
Not
People got
wanting
to buy in.
to not wanting to, get vaccinated, no matter where you are on the spectrum of it. I'm not saying he should or he shouldn't, but the way that he handled that was just very immature, in my opinion.
Who
The
Wentz?
way he
I don't even. I
handled,
don't remember. I don't hear this. So he was an
yeah, Wentz
anti-vaxxer.
Wentz
Was he?
just
I have no
like
idea.
didn't want to do it. Yeah, Wentz just didn't
Okay.
want to do it. I don't remember how that actually got resolved. I think it was
Okay.
just whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, I know there was a lot of people just talking about him not wanting to do that. Yeah, for the first couple of weeks, I was kind of following what was going on in Indianapolis, and then I kind
Hmm.
of saw that it was kind of the same things that were happening in Philly. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, y'all could deal with that headache. Like you could tell Colts fans were tired of him too. So
Hmm. Yeah.
you,
We'll
you got
see
to
how
hope
it.
that it goes right.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, Ron Rivera, I guess the one redeeming quality, and we'll see if it actually like he's supposed to be a culture guy, kind of a character builder. Maybe he can buy into Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz can kind of mesh over there and see how that goes. So we'll see. So I think physically he's probably one of the most talented quarterbacks we've had in a long time. We've had, Griffin was a physical specimen. Kirk Cousins was pretty athletic, but like we've had injured Alex Smith. We've had a Haskins that had a gun but could not be. He wasn't mobile at all. And Heineke was
Yeah.
kind of an undersized guy that was kind of overachieving. So I do think it's kind of nice to have a 6'5" athletic quarterback that can launch it. So we'll see how that goes. Two more questions, we can wrap it up. So in terms of sacks and in terms of durability, so what's going on with Wentz there? So like I think he had 50 sacks in 2019 or what was it, 2020? One of those
Yeah.
years he got, I think, led the league, and it was like people were saying he's broken. Like what was going on with that?
So the Eagles obviously deal with a lot of injuries. I will say that.
Okay.
I would love to see the numbers last year with him with the sacks. I'm not sure where they were as far as with the Indianapolis Colts. I will say I'll put some of it on the Eagles, right? I'll
Okay.
put some of it, that we did have so many injuries. But I will put a lot of it on him as well. Again, we talked about this earlier, that mentality of want to make the biggest play instead of the safe play or the smart play. He plays outside of the offensive structure, I think is the best way of saying it. He plays outside of the offensive structure a lot. So that's something that is going to get you sacked sometimes, right? When you're running around for 10 seconds behind the line of scrimmage, eventually somebody's going to catch you. And you look at this draft, you got, 400-pound men running 4.4. So somebody's going to catch you quicker than not. So that I will say that some of it is, a product of our offensive line consistently being injured. His last year with us, we had 13 or 14 different offensive lineups, starting offensive lineups through 16 games. So it wasn't easy. I won't sit here and say it was easy for him, but he also had a lot to play in that, whether it was, you can go back to the Dallas game, his last Dallas game. There was a play he literally ran to the outside, could have got the first down with his legs, and just gets sacked standing like this and fumbles the ball. So there's a lot of plays like that. There's a lot of plays like
that.
He's
a fumbler, right? From what I gather.
He is. He got better. I will say, he did get better, but he's not great. He's not. He just makes boneheaded plays a lot. He makes a lot of boneheaded plays. So
that's gonna be toxic in our community, man. I love our fan base. Our fan base is it's very similar to yours, very, very passionate, but very, very dramatic. Like if he costs us a game for a fumble, they'd be like, people are gonna be calling for Heineke to start. It's gonna be kind of messy. We have to get to a hot start this year. We'll see how that goes.
What are you gonna do with Heineke? Before I don't want to
Oh, he's not. So he's pretty inexpensive for us. I think it's maybe $3 or $4 million or something. So he's going to be our backup. I feel bad for the guy. He's basically just been someone that's kind of hustled and worked really hard. And it's about 18 months ago, he's sleeping on someone's couch. So he's finally he earned something. He earned a good contract, but he's going to be on the bench. He's going to be our backup, maybe even like our third quarterback if we get a nice rookie to kind of develop. But honestly, having Heineke as a backup really isn't that bad. I think that's where he's best served. He's like a low end starter, a good backup. So hope, if Wentz does get knocked out for a game or two, in regard to his injuries, then we can get him in there. I guess one more on the injury before I ask you about the Eagles and their offseason. So Wentz's injuries, one was a torn ACL, correct? That was kind of like a freak play near the goal line, if I remember correctly. What were some of the other ones? I know he always misses time. Were they more like So what was it, concussions or something? What was going on?
His rookie year, in his first preseason game, he had some broken ribs. He ended up playing the first game of the season, but he did have broken ribs. So that kind of messed him up for that season. He played that full season. The next year, he played most of the season. He had back issues. So his second year was the year with the ACL. So that was the year that they won the Super Bowl, his second year. The third year, he had back issues. Nick Foles ended up going back in and leading us to the playoffs again.
Okay.
Third year is when he got paid, right?
I think so. I can look it up if you really want me to.
That year, I'm pretty sure that year he played the full year.
Okay.
And then, so it was a lot of different things. And then, it was ACL, there was back injuries, there was the concussion in the Seattle game, there was broken ribs. Those are the main ones that pop out to me. I'm sure there were a couple more, but those were kind of the main ones that really sidetracked me because he did get taken out twice for Nick Foles prior to us even having Jalen Hurts, and both of them were one of the times where kind of because we weren't going to make the playoffs, we ended up making them anyways, and they just wanted to rest Hurts or Wentz because he was hurt. And then the other one, he just was hurt, and they just pulled him, and Foles went on a nice little run and made the playoffs. So he gets injured a lot. He's one of those dudes that, and like I said earlier, he's gotten a little bit better at trying to, protect himself when he is running, but he's one of those guys when he starts taking off, you hold your breath as a fan because at any second he's going to get popped.
I love the insight, man. I'm glad I know you, bud. I can actually talk to you and hear about this. This will be interesting. All right, so let's break it on down. So we have to pivot, and I'm sure you got stuff to do too. So let's talk about the Eagles, man. Definitely, we're the NFC, you're our rivals. I'm kind of curious, what are some of the deficits that you guys have on your roster? What free agents are being talked about in your community, and who do you want in the draft? So let's do free agency first, one at a time. So what are some of the deficits in free agency?
This free agency, realistically, a lot of us were looking at wide receiver. That could still be a possibility. Obviously, a lot of the top names, Mike Williams, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin just got tagged. So a lot of the higher end names are taken, but names like Christian Kirk would be something that I think Eagles fans would be in love with.
Mm.
I love Allen Robinson. I know he's probably going to be a little bit costly. I would love to get him in Philly. Someone around there, maybe.
Joe, what's your cap situation? Does it look pretty good?
Right now, I think we're around like 23.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So
that can
go up.
Couple starters, yeah. You can always play around with some numbers and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, that can go up. There's some guys that we're looking at that can probably get restructured, maybe more money moved around. But yeah, definitely a wide receiver. I know that the Eagles really, really want a safety, at least a fan base, I should say. Maybe not the Eagles franchise, but we need one. Both of our safeties are free agents, Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod. So as far as free agency, those are the two spots that I would really like to shore up, is get a nice little vet wide receiver and get yourself. I would love a Marcus Williams. I really wanted Jesse Bates before he got franchise tagged.
Yeah.
There's a couple other names out there. There's Reed from Houston. There's a couple other guys.
Diggs from Seattle too. Yeah, it's a couple of people playing, right?
Seattle, who's actually pretty cool with Darius Slay. So maybe that would happen. But there's a couple guys out there. But I definitely think safety, you need at least one. And then wide receiver, I think, is it's not necessary. I won't say we need to go get, but it would be nice to have.
It's funny. I feel like you guys are always looking for a wide receiver, and you guys are always trying. You're always trying. So it hasn't worked out, right? It was in something. So he's Smith, Rieger. Yeah, it's great. You guys always trying it out. So it's interesting. Cool. I think we're in the same.
Cornerback and safety. Those are our three spots we never hit on. Never.
And you guys have 3 first-round picks. So that's pretty legit. So are you guys going to package that and try to trade for a quarterback, you think? Or are you guys going to stay put and build around Hurts? What are you guys thinking about? Or are you guys getting Watson? What's going on with that?
Prior to the whole Wilson news, I wouldn't have been surprised if we wanted. I heard sources.
Because you guys were connected to Wilson, right?
Yeah, sources said that we did put in an offer. I don't know the exact offer, but he didn't want to turn down his or he didn't want to waive his no trade clause for us. Which, whatever, cool. I'm just glad he's out of the NFC, if I'm being 100% honest. But Watson might still be on the table. We really went hard for him before. I wouldn't be surprised if we try to go after him again. Friday, I believe, is when they figure out all the case stuff or something supposed to happen as far as the court stuff goes. If that clears up, I don't think that we're going to be a team that can give or wants to give enough for him to come to, or for Houston to want it. Because once that clears up, I wouldn't be surprised if that clears up and you guys say, "Hey, we'll give you Wentz." We'll get
that'd be hilarious if we could actually use Wentz as a trading piece later on. You never know, dude. To be honest with you, like just talking to you as a real NFL fan, because I love the Washington team. I'm an NFL fan first, man. I think it'd be wise for you guys to keep your 3 picks. I think we talked about that before. Like, obviously, trade the 3 to maybe get a quarterback if Wilson was around. That would kind of scare us a little bit in DC. But the wise thing, man, Hurts is good enough. If you get 3 first-round picks, you guys can build your whole team up. And then basically, if Hurts kind of takes a step back or something, next year go get a quarterback or just do something else. But I think it's like this is a franchise-altering draft for you guys. So it's really important. So, yeah, for sure.
And not just that. I mean, obviously, we have the first 3 rounds, or the first 3 picks. Your weaknesses, I've been going really hard on this draft. I've been really, really.
Yeah, I've been looking. I've been seeing, yeah.
It's been fun. It's actually been a lot of fun.
I love it. It's pretty cool. It's different, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a very good draft. This is a very deep draft, and it's very deep at the positions that we need. We
wide
need
receivers for
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna get into a little bit about what the draft needs for the Eagles are, but every when you look at the top tier guys, we can go ahead and fix probably our 3 biggest needs in the first 2 rounds. So I think
agree.
that it could be interesting.
And cheap. You have a reloadable talent for cheap that you can stock up your cupboard with, which is very good. Let me throw one more question at you because we actually have another. Like my company has one at 7:00. They're going to jump on, so they hurry up a little bit. So let's talk about this, right? So if you could have a dream scenario, who'd be one of your top 3 picks in the first round? Who do you like so far after doing some research and stuff?
For my Eagles, there's so many different ways they can go. I want the best edge rusher that's available, whether that be David Ojabo, George Karlaftis. Jermaine Johnson's a little bit too high, a little bit. I don't know. I think that's a bit of a stretch at 15, 16, maybe at 19. I wouldn't mind it. But yeah, there's a list. I can go down a whole list of defensive ends.
So edge rushers for sure.
So edge rusher, top edge rusher. Top cornerback, if Stingley seems like he's falling down boards, I would love
That'd
for him
nice,
to be.
Dude. Or Sauce Gardner,
I love Kyer Elam. I love Andrew Booth. I love Sauce Gardner. So if we can get a top cornerback, that would be great. And then linebacker. I've been very high on Devin Lloyd. That 40 times scares me a little bit, if I'm being 100% honest. But I do still think he's probably top 2, if not the best linebacker in the draft. So either him or Nakobe Dean. If you want to wait till the second round, there's a Christian Harris. There's there's Brian Asamoah. There's a lot of good
whole bunch, man. There's a lot of talent.
So
I feel like this draft has maybe not the highest blue chip prospect we have in the year, but a nice little solid high floor group. And I think the wide receiver group's pretty solid. And it's funny, we have a lot of parallels for us in Washington. Wide receivers is definitely intriguing for us. Like we got Diami Brown last year. I don't know if you even followed him at all, but he was a UNC wide receiver, one of Sam Howell's deep threats. We have him in our fold. We have Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, but I think we got one more really nice wide receiver to put on our team that'll take us to another level. And we are looking at a linebacker too. So those are in play for us at 11. So I'll be kind of interesting.
Don't take Devin Lloyd at 11. If y'all take Devin Lloyd at 11, I would be mad.
There you go, man. We'll see him and Nakobe Dean. We'll see what's up, man. So Joe, I really appreciate it, man. This is on the whim. Dude, just for the record, listeners, I hit up Joe 20 minutes ago. I'm like, dude, let's do this. We just jumped on, completely freestyled, and it was good chemistry. It was awesome, man. So Joe, let us know where they can find you with some content you have coming up. Let's break it all down.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, Philly the podcast. Anywhere you watch or listen to a podcast, you can find me. And we're doing the mock draft series, so I think that's how me and you actually first met. So we're restarting the mock draft series. So if you guys are into drafts, definitely check it out. We're hitting up content creators from every team, and it's a lot of fun. George can tell you we're going to be definitely hitting you back up for this year, but so far we've already had some really cool guests. We had Seth Payne, that used to be a defensive tackle for the Houston Texans. He picked for the Houston Texans. So a lot of cool collabs and a lot of cool guests. So definitely come on over and check us out, man. I really appreciate it.
No doubt, brother. And Roger, sorry I missed your chat messages. I see you, man. So Roger had a funny message that we both missed, Joe. He basically said, how can your Super Bowl odds go down after you sign a franchise QB? It was 60-1, and now we're 75-1 after Wentz. You cannot make this stuff up. That's rough, dude. Crazy. And Roger, thank you for following. Man. Thank you for watching. And Kyle, I appreciate that. What's up to you? So, guys, I'm George Carmi from Full Press Coverage. The Commanders. Thank you for everything. See you guys. Great. Have a good night. Bye, guys.